an honor to serve as the chairman of the Holocaust and Social Justice Education Committee, which is a committee of the Hebrew congregation of Chautauqua. I think you're in for a real treat tonight. What's going on behind me is a video that the teachers have made of all the programs and the DC trip that they made during this past year. I say it's a pleasure and an honor because I get to work with some truly remarkable people. As you will see this evening, they are just wonderful people. The first I'd like to tell you about is our lead educator, Leanne Henry. Leanne is a social studies teacher at Chautauqua Lake Central School. She's been teaching there for about 24 years, 3 years somewhere else before that. She is a veteran of the classroom. She has received training at the Holocaust Museum. In 2005, she was one of 15 students at the museum who were named as a museum teacher fellow. Quite an honor. She has worked as a consultant with the U.S. Department of Education to further teacher-to-teacher education. She is the winner of the Toby, I have to read this, Toby Rickenback Award for Holocaust Education. She has been honored by the Rochester Institute of Technology as an outstanding teacher. She recently was awarded a trip to Armenia by the Genocide Education Project. She just got back not too long ago from time in Armenia. And lastly, she is being recognized August 24th by the YWCA of Jamestown as a catalyst for change. That'll be August 24th. It'll be a real celebration. She's really a passionate person involved in this Holocaust education, has been for many years. Accompanying her tonight is Emily Dorman. Emily is an English teacher at Chautauqua Lakes. She's got some time in the classroom as well, 17 to 18 years of teaching experience. And she has worked her English education into Holocaust and social justice understanding. It's truly my honor to work with these wonderful, wonderful people. Let me ask you if Deborah Sonia Moore, who's with us tonight, she just wanted to say a few words. Deborah's here on behalf of the institution, but more importantly, she's here as the mother whose child is going to take this course next year.
Thank you, Larry. Isn't it wonderful when life collides together? I just love that. Thank you all for being here. I love seeing Smith Wilkes fill up with all of you here to learn more about what our amazing Hebrew congregation does for our county children, and just to know that all of you are that interested to support our county youth, to be a part of the Hebrew congregation, really just lifts my spirits. As Larry said, I'm here not only as Chief Program Officer for Chautauqua, but as a Chautauqua Lake mother. And we have incredible teachers at Chautauqua Lake. Special thanks to Emily and Leanne and the other teachers that are here tonight. We have been working for a long time on trying to increase our partnership with the schools, particularly in the area of performing and literary arts education, so that Chautauqua Institution is really present in our county schools. This program that the Hebrew congregation does is critical not only to the learning for the students in that particular class, but to our relationship that we think can be stronger and stronger. I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Maureen Ravenio, who has been such a friend of us in the Hebrew congregation. Because of people like Maureen, these programs have been able to grow, and we've been able to lean more and more into our interfaith and multi-religious experiences. So thank you for everything that Hebrew congregation does. Thank you, Larry, and everyone for their leadership, and thank each one of you for being here, not only to support Chautauqua Institution and the Hebrew congregation, but to support our county's youth. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi. Good evening. I'm so happy to be with you all this evening. Thank you, Larry, and thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, to every one of you who have helped to make this programming possible. As you can see from the video behind me, we have had an amazing year, and every year we keep adding to our program, and this year was no exception to that. This year we added in a writing contest that you will hear a little bit about, and an Anne Frank Award program as well. What I love about this program is how unique it is. There is nothing else like this program anywhere I've come across where an organization comes alongside teachers and says, we want to support you in all that you do. And it started with a trip to DC and expanded to let's help educators learn. And then it expanded to let's have a weekend for students to get together and talk about social justice. It's been absolutely amazing. This evening's presentation is titled The Impact of Holocaust Education in a Complex World, Empowering Upstanders in a Bystanders World. And more than ever this year, I think we see how complex our world and our country has become in teaching the Holocaust, in teaching social justice. History is coming under attack. States are requiring something called both-sideness when you teach history. But we are giving the educators the tools that they need to enhance their program. A few years ago, one of the books that we gave to educators at our fall teacher workshop was Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb. And last year, that book was pulled from an elementary school, and we didn't know why. And one of the things that my class did, and they can probably tell you a little bit about, is we dug through that poem. We analyzed it to find out what was wrong. And what's interesting, one of my friends who teaches in Canada, I posted something on Facebook about it, and she's like, I want you to know that every time a book gets banned, we are buying it and we are teaching it and we are creating. We are working with teachers who are absolutely passionate, dynamic, risk takers, and we are just so fortunate to have them in our county. But in addition to educating teachers, we are passionate about educating students and encouraging them to use their voices to bring students together. Our trip this year, this is the first time our trip to Washington, D.C., we took 2 busloads, over 100 people. One of the highlights, there are many highlights of the trip, but one of the highlights for me was when Alexander Zapruder, who spoke here last year at the AMP, came to our hotel on Sunday morning and spoke to the students about their identity and their voice, and her experience with reading journals and diaries from the Holocaust and other time periods. And when we were in that session, one of the students raised his hand and talked about his experience with mental health struggles and how his habit of journaling has helped him through that, and he was encouraged to do that through his therapist. And in that moment, the student just was so brave to say these things, and in that moment, he normalized mental health and journaling to our whole group, and to me, that was just a very memorable time. So also new this year is an Upstander program you're going to hear about. We are recognizing students who are doing the hard work of upstanding in our communities. I told you, this is unique and it's beautiful, and together we are building a more empathetic society that values the voice of young people.
So we're going to hear from some of those students now. I'm going to turn it over back to Larry, who's going to introduce Len Cass.
So this past spring, we were presented with an opportunity by two families, Lynn and Judy Katz and the Hirschberg family, to do a writing program. Now, it turns out that writing programs are fairly common in big cities, where a federation organization can put up a prize money and ask the kids in the city to write something. I want to call on Lynn Katz, who's here tonight. It was Lynn and Jeff Hirschberg that made this happen, and God willing, we will continue it.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Leanne, and all others who are here to support the Holocaust education community here that has been going on for a number of years. I think you all saw and heard from Leanne why we have been so impressed with her. Well, in a way, that's the way the writing program began. Jeff and Shirley Hirschberg were here at Chautauqua for a few weeks, and they heard the program being presented one night by the Hebrew congregation. And they heard Leanne and became so impressed with her that the Hirschbergs and the Katzes got together and said, is there some way that we could extend the activities that had become so robust, including 2 busloads of students and teachers going down to Washington, D.C. Is there some way we could expand it? And we came up with the idea of a writing program where we would engage students throughout the entire community here in the county, the entire county, to participate in a writing program. And needless to say, to make it happen, there was one person we had to turn to, and that's Leanne. And the program exists in her honor, and rightly so, that it really does. We all should once again just thank She took the idea that we had developed and developed a question that would be presented to students, most of whom had traveled to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., or at least had studied the Holocaust, to write an essay, less than 1,000 words, and we proposed that there would be 6 prizes awarded to reflect the 6 million who were lost in the Holocaust. And I think you will hear more about that just very shortly. And to make it happen, it required a real significant marketing effort to reach every community, educational community throughout the entire county, and Leanne did that. And she developed a protocol and a form that was sent out, and we had no idea whether there would be any interest in this at all. And remarkably, and much to our great joy, we had 36 participants representing 5 different educational communities, school districts throughout this county who submitted essays. The essays were then evaluated very carefully by family members in particular and some outsiders as well, and worked it down until there were finally 6. And of the 6, 3 were the top winners, major prize, and then there was a second prize, and then there were runner-up prizes. So there were 6 winners in all, and again, only Leanne could have made this happen. We invited all of the participants, all of those who submitted essays, to come and join us in the parlor at the Athenaeum Hotel. And it was supported, and we got to thank the Hebrew congregation for providing food and beverage. It was not a meal, but it was a late afternoon event. It was beautiful. And only Leanne could have gotten every single winner to come to that program not knowing that they had won. So at the program, the students were sitting there, many with families, with friends and families and relatives, and the winners were announced one by one, starting with the runner-up, then the second, and then the third, and the second, and the first. And each one, I would say, received a very vigorous round of applause as they realized that they were the winner. I know we don't have everyone here, but you're going to be introduced to the first prize winner in our essay contest. And happily, this will be going on again next year. Yeah. We're going to continue again. And the date is already set. I got to look at my notes to make sure I tell you the right date. It will be, once again, Monday, June 10th, 2024 in the Athenaeum at the hotel. And we'll have a lovely event there. We'd love to see as many of you who might find it interesting to meet these students and their families and to hear their presentations. So with that, Larry, I think I've explained the program that we have developed, and it will continue. It is working, I just want to make this point clear, it's a separate program in a sense, but we work absolutely, totally in collaboration with the Hebrew congregation. So thank you very much, and Larry, thank you, Leanne, and thank you very much.
Good evening, my name is Emily Dorman. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our first place winner for our writing program, Mary Reynolds, who is going to be a senior at Southwestern High School.
I just want you to know, Mr. Katz was very right. I had absolutely no idea I won, so you could just imagine the look on my face when I found out. They said my name and I just went. Me, my grandmother, and my mother were all sitting there and we were all completely shocked. But I'd like to read my essay for you today. So the first time I was exposed to literature about the Holocaust, I was in 5th grade. I chose a book that seemed compelling as my fanatical obsession with reading had driven me to read mountains more than my peers. Only this book was different. My excellent reading skills could not decipher the linguistical masterpiece of this heartbreaking story. After rereading this book too many times to count, I still have things to learn from Mark Zuzak's The Book Thief. The account may be a work of historical fiction, but it opened my eyes to a whole new level of suffering and tragedy I had never come close to recognizing before. I learned about the murder of over 6 million Jews. My desire to educate myself on the true story inspiring the devastating tale has brought me here to the present. Literature and guidance from my wonderful teachers has opened my eyes to the depthless abyss of despair and inhumanity the victims faced. As my knowledge has expanded, my empathy, awareness, and horror have grown exponentially. I can now recognize that I have been witnessing the looming hatred towards minority groups in our own beautiful country, and the threat is ever closer, even though so many are unaware. The ignorance of the common people, the vulnerability, the fear was what Hitler capitalized on to execute the final solution. After being so horrendously humiliated by the Allied powers in the First World War, Germans were rightfully upset as they had landed in a puddle of misfortune, economic crisis, and embarrassment. For bloodthirsty races, however, the tragedy was the perfect opportunity to grow, secreting poisonous lies into the ears and out of the mouths of citizens. The invasive propaganda, the venomous fear of her spread while in office caused an incredible amount of fear and hatred towards the Jews and other different populations in Europe. Capitalizing on children's naivety, Hitler taught the language of prejudice to innocents. The encouragement of violence toward Jews and direct movements to ostracize them from the German populace was why such a massive murder was able to be completed. A similar trend has been emerging for the past couple of years, one promoting the dangerous notion that the LGBTQ+ community means to cause children harm. The pattern of emerging genocidal tendencies and thinking is reflected in the recent developments of anti-gay and anti-trans bills being passed throughout most southern states. One of the most popular examples of this hatred is the Don't Say Gay bill, a Floridian bill restricting any mention or education on gender or sexuality. The bill teaches the children of Florida that being a part of the LGBTQ+ community is wrong and taboo. Much like the Hitler Youth, children are being taught harmful, awful stereotypes that will result in an escalation of animosity. Discrimination isn't just happening in Florida, as about 30 states are either considering or have passed anti-trans healthcare laws. The emerging legislation lines up with somewhat late stages of eugenics and restrictions on rights of the Jews that Hitler implemented during his tyranny. Many trans advocates have testified, appealing that the lack of trans-affirming care to transgender children causes increased rates of suicide. The obvious lack of care for the well-being and safety of a group that has been fighting for equality for years clearly illustrates to everyone that these leaders simply do not see trans citizens as deserving of basic human rights. Legislators have blared their hatred and fear of acceptance of transgender and gay people for decades, but are now using this hatred for nefarious purposes. Without my education on the Holocaust, these frightening signs of early genocide would pass me by. Sadly, many do not have the knowledge of the subject that I've been exposed to and simply treat this as a backburner problem. Before long, we may be too far progressed in this anti-LGBTQ+ flood to save our once proud and fair country. As a child, before my realization of the unfair treatment so many go through, I watched discrimination happen without knowing the truth. Growing up in the South meant being exposed to prejudice that was way larger compared to Northern progressiveness. LGBTQ+ kids were shamed and ostracized from my childhood environment, so my education did not truly blossom until my most recent years. Without even realizing, homophobia and transphobia were subconsciously roped into my thinking. I truly believed that being gay was not right, but no child can be blamed for the evil thinking they were educated in. Evil is not born, it's made. After the Black Lives Matter movement exploded during quarantine, I made it my job to educate myself and recognize my own prejudice in the face of differing opinions and pressure to conform to the thoughts shared by my peers. Listening to students my age discuss their prejudice towards transgender and gay youth within our own school is proof that hatred and fear of the unknown has polluted the thinking of children everywhere in America. Now I make it a priority to educate others on hateful thinking, as humanity cannot progress unless we are united, not divided and violent. The heaping amounts of intellectual thought I have consumed relating to the effects on the Jewish population's prosecution and the travesty known as the Holocaust has allowed for me to fight against discriminatory thinking with a renewed vigor. Injustice will never truly be ended, but the steps to a safer and fairer world lie in love and appreciation of one another. Never would I have classified myself as a cold or unfeeling person, but by seeing the evil one person can hold toward one another, I truly realize and value the open-minded idea of acceptance. No matter who you are, where you come from, or what you've done in the past, it is never too late to embrace kindness and educate yourself so the path toward growth can begin.
We're moving on. We'll do something that we started just this year as well. I shouldn't be up here. Really, Blossom Leibowitz is not with us this week. Blossom is on the Holocaust Education Committee, and she started telling us about a program in South Florida. It was called the Anne Frank Project. And what it tried to do was to recognize students who had done something outstanding. Not necessarily academic. I mean, the talk we just heard, that's academics. But she was thinking, or they were thinking, of honoring people, of students who had been upstanders and stood up for what's right. So we decided we would go for this. we asked Leanne, and with her help, we sent it out to the schools. And the idea was we would give these kids an award at the end of their school year as well. They would be honored in front of their fellow students and hopefully in front of parents as well, so that the word of the Hebrew Congregation's education program could spread. So it's my honor tonight to award this award to two young women. The first of these is Carissa Buchanan, who is a student at Silver Creek High School in Silver Creek. Carissa's teacher has written that she's going to be a junior this year, correct? Okay. She's a good student, but what really makes her difference is her compassion, her drive, and her willingness to help others. She's a leader amongst students in her school. She's been involved in the Knights Against Cancer, the History and Culture Club, and she's been captain of her school